Welcome into KC Sports Tonight. Marlia Campbell here with Gabe Swartz. Gabe, starting off with a hot topic of the week. Jac Caglianone, the Royals' top prospect, making his debut in Omaha. He's been in AAA for a week now, but this is kind of the celebratory start to his home career in Omaha, however long that may be. Hit 5 home runs in his first 6 games since his call-up from AA. Let's just start with the question everyone's asking. When will we see him in Royal Blue? Putting you on the spot a little bit.
Oh man, that is the debate that I think everyone is having, and I think that most people wish that it would be sooner than it probably realistically will be. I thought that I wasn't out at the K yesterday, but I know that I've seen the social media clips that Mark was circulating and the comments from JJ Piccolo specifically about not feeling like it's fair to put the onus to fix the offense on the top prospect in the organization. That, to me, feels plenty fair. I don't know if they necessarily are going to be afforded the opportunity to do such a thing unless several things that have happened for what we've seen 2 months now of baseball for the Royals, unless things change, unless Nick Lofton and John Rave are the solution that frees up the offense, or somebody takes the step forward that Michael Garcia did this season to be more productive. I don't know that they're going to reach a point this season in which when Caglianone gets called up, he's not going to be viewed as a solution or the fix unless they make a very early trade in the same realm that they did several years ago. When they made the trade, it felt like they kind of jumped the line on trading for Cole Reagans, and that was not necessarily a win-now move. Of course, they were not a very good team when they traded Aroldis Chapman. They were just one of the earlier sellers. So if they can be one of the earlier buyers this year and maybe make a mid-June trade, maybe that happens before a Cags promotion. But at this point, if he's just going to hit 5 home runs per week, which I think there has to be some level of slowdown on that. It was Salt Lake City. They were it's not one of the better pitching staffs in AAA. So all of those things, of course, that's kind of the wet blanket loser take to have, I guess, if we're trying to be lame and went. Yeah, exactly. But I still think that, like, June 27th, to me, that's the Dodgers series. I don't know if they would want to bring him up with that high of expectations for such a marquee series like that. I know June 10th to the 12th they play the Yankees. I don't know if you want to bring him up for that series. But I would think that you would want the debut to be in Kansas City for theatrical purposes, for comfort purposes. Yeah, exactly. I think that in AAA, for a long time, I didn't think that they would bring him up when they did, because I didn't think that they would bring him up for a road trip in Salt Lake City. But they already did that, so who knows? I think it's, at this point, we're pacing toward him making his debut within a year of him being drafted. He got drafted on July 14th last year. So he is moving at a faster pace than most prospects move, but because the offense stinks at the MLB level, I think that Royals fans are getting impatient, which is crazy.
It's like the solution's right there. Just get him. Yeah, not necessarily the case. I was in that press conference with JJ Piccolo yesterday, and to your point, he brought up, like, bringing him up on the road in AAA. It was always like you get a little bit nervous because you want them to have that home kind of debut. So I think your assumption of his call up to the big leagues being at home definitely being the case, knowing that Piccolo has that mindset. He also talked about, I think my net takeaway from talking with him yesterday was a little bit more pumping the brakes than, like, leaning into the, enthusiasm of, and he spoke really highly of him, but he kept kind of cautioning the biggest thing they're dealing with is not bringing him up too soon. He kind of kept emphasizing that on making sure he gets enough time. He's had an incredible week, but they want to see more at-bats. They want to see kind of growth over a couple of weeks here. So folks hoping he'll be here on Friday. Disappointing news from that Piccolo presser.
That's not happening.
Yeah, right. But, I mean, he also talked about something that we saw with John Rave, which is they tell their prospects to beat down the door and make us have no choice but to bring you up. I think he's well on his way to doing that.
Yeah.
But I think you give it a little time and say conservatively, maybe after the All-Star break.
I think he'll be here before then.
You do?
Yeah,
Ooh.
I think he will, because as long as there's not an extended, prolonged slump in AAA, he doesn't even necessarily have to hit for the home run. Like, it's not sustainable to hit 5 home runs in 6 games in every because AAA they play the 6-game series. Yep. He's not doing that every series, but if he's hitting in the 300s and he's not striking out at a crazy rate, which he didn't in AA. He struck out more than I guess you would ideally want. But if you look at the metrics on strikeout to walk rate that Bobby Witt Jr. put up when he was a rookie in the MLB, he's getting better and better every year in his pro career. And so that's something that can be developed and will get better. Like, the best hitters, they get better with more exposure to any level of baseball that they play at. And Jack has shown enough that you would think that that's something that will translate. I did see in the Kansas City Star today, Sam McDowell pointed out astutely that Jac Caglianone's pitches per plate appearance right now is lower than the lowest amount in the MLB in AAA. He's seeing like 2.9 pitches per at-bat, and the fewest pitches per at-bat seen in the MLB by anyone is Jacob Wilson with the A's, and he sees like 3.1 pitches per at-bat. So he's swinging a lot. The positive is he's making significant contact so frequently that everyone's like, oh, he crushes everything he sees. Yeah. And that's what it seems like, which is better than swinging at everything you see and rolling over to second base. And exactly. Yeah. So there's pros, but that's probably one of those things where the Royals want to see him work counts and do all those kinds of things, which is what he was doing at the end of his tenure in AA. So we'll see. I'm excited to see, as much as I'm excited to see the 2018 first-round pick showdown between Brady Singer and Daniel Lynch tonight at Kauffman. I will also be keeping an eye on what's happening in Omaha tonight as well.
It's a dual screen kind of night, because those games start within like 5 minutes of each other. Let's put this into a little bit of bigger context, not just from what Caglianone does at the plate, but adding him to the Royals lineup as it stands right now. How do you think he can elevate kind of, the play of other guys and kind of alleviate some of the offensive woes that this team has had through 1/3 of the season?
Well, the most obvious thing is that even if he swings and misses a decent amount and he strikes out at a higher rate than most of the Royals do, because you can say a lot of things about this Royals offense. One of the things that they don't do very often is strike out. They, at least when they're making outs, most of the time they are making outs by putting the ball in play, weak contact or not. What they're not doing is they're not really running into power, and they're not running into home runs, and Caglianone can certainly do that. And that is the one thing that is certainly missing from this offense. I would say that not only has there not been any power from any of the unusual suspects. The usual suspects, Vinny is at 8 home runs, Bobby's at 5, Salvi's at 4 now because he hit one yesterday. But Salvi went over a month without hitting one. Bobby has gone several weeks without hitting one, and Vinny has he hit one in San Francisco last week, but he's been down in comparison to last year. And so Caglianone, once he's in the majors, will have more power than anyone on the roster, and you would just hope that he's able to produce. But I think that because that some of the problems with the Royals lineup is the 7-8 hole creating offense, putting him there is one of those things where he's not going to come up and be put into the 4 spot in the lineup. They're not going to move him move Salvador Perez out of his usual spot at this point for a rookie debuting less than a year after he got drafted. So I think that that's reasonable, but I know that the Royals are slow playing it, and I think that promoting who they've promoted in recent weeks, with Lofton coming up in Minnesota, with Rave coming up this week in Kansas City, and having those guys, and you can see that they're starting to try to tweak things. They're hitting that 2-month mark of okay, something has to change. Hopefully, if they can get slight upticks in production from those guys, you can hold off and allow the time to develop while maintaining solid play, because right now they're tied for the last spot in the wild card. So they're certainly not out of it, and if they can just maintain things, you would just hope that maybe they can become that team where it's a little bit of a reverse of what last year was, where they were so hot to start the year. They just kind of held on for that playoff spot at the end of the year, and Detroit kind of got crazy hot as the year progressed and became one of the better teams in August and September. I think that that's probably the vision for the Royals and for their front office, is that this team, the pitching can sustain things and the offense can be fixed throughout the year.
Yeah.
And that can be something that Jack helps with. He doesn't
shoulder
the entire load.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, let's move on to kind of an interesting thread of a storyline today, which is Brady Singer pitching at Kauffman Stadium for the first time not wearing royal blue. He'll be out with the Reds since being traded over the course of this offseason. There's a couple threads like that. Jonathan India playing his former team for the first time yesterday in the designated hitter role. And as you pointed out, Gabe, we have a little bit of a Royals 2018 draft showdown with the starting pitchers.
Yeah.
Tonight.
Yeah, and Daniel Lynch, who knows how long he's going to go. He pointed out when he made the spot start against the Giants last week on Wednesday that he got to 40 pitches, and he probably felt like pitches 31 through 40 he wasn't necessarily super locked in for because of just exhaustion. He hasn't started games, and he's not going to be expected to go super deep into this one because he pitched over the weekend in Minnesota as well. It's just another spot where they're going bullpen game instead of calling someone up from Omaha in replacing Cole Reagan's start because Noah Cameron again will go tomorrow. So I don't know necessarily how long we're going to get of Daniel Lynch versus Brady Singer. I'm fascinated to see a struggling Royals offense with a lot of guys who have been teammates with Brady Singer and teammates with Brady Singer for several years. What their level of production is against him, and you've got to think that they know a decent amount about the scouting report on him. So I think that's fascinating, and I can't wait to see what happens.
Yeah, it was fun watching him yesterday. He did a little presser with some of the local media, and then he came out to the outfield and just hung out with Jonathan India for maybe like 15, 20 minutes. Got a standing ovation at the K. I'm sure there'll be a lot of cheers for him tonight. Bittersweet of a return. But speaking of last night, let's talk about that game because we were there. We were watching this one. I watched the 7th, 8th, and 9th innings in kind of the basement level by the media room. And at first it looked like, oh man, this is going to be a really boring ending. And then Salvador Perez hits the 2-run homer. You get the balk in the 9th, and it's like, wait a minute, the time runs at the plate. This team was down 6-0 after 5 innings. Gabe, what's kind of the missing, we talked about this a little bit, but what's the missing piece for this team to really begin connecting the dots? Because you had that really good streak a couple weeks ago, but I think they've lost 10 of their last 15, and things seem to kind of be, I guess, hitting a plateau here.
Yeah.
At the 1/3 mark.
Yeah, I think that it's really just, if anything, you've kind of seen a little bit of how bad it can get when Bobby's not producing.
Yeah.
Specifically with power. He's still getting on base at a decent clip. I mean, he's hitting 293, but his batting average was up to 325 as recently as a week and a half ago, and he didn't necessarily do too much in Minnesota. And as I mentioned, he hasn't hit a home run in several weeks, and so I think that getting him going is incredibly important. It's also been one of those things where he's not necessarily coming up with guys on base very often, and when he has it almost feels like he's pressing with runners in scoring position, and the whole team is kind of in that role, pressing in that spot. And last night, to your point, bases loaded in the 9th, and Drew Waters wasn't able to make contact on several pitches that were fastballs down the middle that big leaguers typically make pitchers pay for when you're in an advantageous count and the guy has to throw a strike and puts it there. Michael Massey didn't. I think that Michael Massey's one of those that you're starting to see where it just feels like things are mounting on him, and I wonder how much the whole who's playing second base, who's playing left field, who's DHing each day is kind of wearing on him and Jonathan India, where it kind of feels like they're starting to have a plan, but it still seems like they're working through figuring out the defensive side of things. But for as much as I say about that, they've moved Michael Garcia around several times this year, and he just continues to hit plenty fine. Yeah, exactly. So I don't know. I do think that I keep saying they have to hit better with runners in scoring position, and you would think that one of the teams that was one of the best in the league last year at doing so is not going to continue being one of the worst. But if that is going to be the case, and it's just going to be that kind of year, that puts a pretty hard cap on the level of team that this Royals team can be. I think that there's some frustration with the way that Michael Lorenzen pitched yesterday, but you just can't expect your pitchers to throw 6 innings of 2 or 3 run ball or less every single night.
Right.
Eventually they have to have a rough outing, and we saw last week the Royals offense step up in a bullpen game. Tonight's the bullpen game with Lynch again. So it feels like one of those games where the offense is going to have to produce 4 or 5 runs. It doesn't profile or set up as one of those games that they can win 2-1. So if they go out and they win 2-1 tonight, I would be moderately surprised. But between how much you know Brady Singer, between how much you know about who the 5 or 6 guys are going to be that pitch tonight for the Royals to get you 27 outs, the offense kind of has to deliver tonight to pick things up.
I know the stat on Sunday, I would have to check it after yesterday, but I imagine it hasn't changed a whole lot. Royals 28th in the league in runs scored, despite having the 13th best record and 6th best in the American League. So pitching's there, but we'll see if they can put the pieces together tonight. A few housekeeping notes. Friday is Big Slick. Very excited about that. Tickets were still available last time I checked. Don't quote me on that, but definitely something to look into if you want to go. All-Star Game, Celebrity Game is at 5, games at 7:10, and Friday night fireworks after that. Saturday, Mike Moustakas will retire a Royal. Should be a really cool moment there. I was at the Lorenzo Cain one a couple of years ago, and it was like tear-jerking. So should be a lot of fun there. But Gabe, before we let you go, we're going to move on to something we didn't get to see today. Chiefs OTAs, they're opening up practice for a brief media viewing window on Thursday. We'll hear from Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid. Really, we're continuing to kind of eat the little breadcrumbs the NFL gets us until we can get to training camp and full pads and actually start talking about what this team looks like. But Gabe, anything you're looking to take away from OTAs this week? I'll start with mine, which is
go
attendance. Who's there? And not when it comes to guys, Chris Jones obviously typically works out by himself, I think, in Florida. And some of the veterans have those established things. But I think about Kadarius Toney last year, guys on the bubble of making the roster. The decision to attend OTAs or not can make a difference.
Yeah, and I think that it is very telling that in an era in which several times during the end of his tenure in Green Bay, Aaron Rodgers was not attending. Several times at the end of his tenure in New England, Tom Brady was not attending. Patrick Mahomes turns 30 in September.
Year 9, yeah.
Year 9 in the league, year 8 as a starter. And he is still May 27th walking into the building as early as he possibly needs to be, shortening his offseason as much as it as late as it goes into February every year, with seemingly going to the Super Bowl or playing into the last weekend of January every single season of his career. He's always bouncing back, coming back to Arrowhead and the practice facility as soon as possible. And I think that's important this year. Again, it's one of those things where the wide receiver group is similar, but it's not completely retooled. But you want to keep going, and I also feel like maybe I believe that there was video of Travis Kelce walking to the facility today, and with that being the case, it feels like those two are trying to maximize their time together. With this being maybe the last chance for those two to pair up and play somewhere between 17 and 21 games.
I just felt like the weight on my shoulders of
it's exciting that he's in the building and ready to go, and we'll see what we find out this week.
I think it was Mahomes' last training camp, maybe the one prior, but I'm pretty sure it's 2024, talking about how Kelce could be essentially a glorified coach at training camp and not doing anything, but he's like fighting for first reps and that kind of thing, and like has to be pulled off the field. So kind of the championship mentality we're talking about, to your point, with Mahomes showing up day one of optional OTAs. Again, we'll hear from Mahomes and Reed on Thursday. And one housekeeping piece I cannot believe I forgot to mention: Royals on KSMO on Sunday. Can't miss that one. KCTV5.com/Royals for a full list of games you can watch on local television this season. But for now, Gabe, thank you so much, and we'll be back here same time, same place tomorrow.